Shalom, welcome to this week's edition of Israel Update and News Update for the pro-Israel activist and advocate community. And we're going to be discussing a number of very important and also very interesting stories. So I hope that you find this video both entertaining and interesting, and I should say all three, and also very informative. Let's start with our most important story. As we say every week, always the most important story until we can solve this problem. And unfortunately, it's yet another week that this problem is not solved, and that's Iran's desire to acquire nuclear weapons. This presents an existential threat to Israel and essentially a danger to the region, to the Middle East, and to the entire world, as you have this largest state sponsor of terror, a nation that's proved itself unstable and not ones that think in a rational way, trying to get the world's most powerful weapons. The Ehud Barak, the Israeli defense minister, came out with statements on Sunday that said that these small incremental sanctions are not going to be enough to stop Iran. And we've always talked about the three ways to stop Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Hopefully the last resort would be an attack, sabotage, in terms of stopping their nuclear advancement by ruining their hardware or killing their scientists, but not in an outright actual bombing. And then the way that we're hoping is a diplomatic way, which is sanctions, encouraging the Iranian regime through economic means, by stopping business flowing in and out of Iran, to actually stop on their own initiative to stop the nuclear drive for nuclear arms. The only way that happens, says Ehud Barak, is if the sanctions aren't just, okay, you can't do business in this sector and in this area with Iran, but all across the board, crippling sanctions that get Iran to say, hold on, this is bad news. We're really not going to advance ourselves as a country, and we're not going to survive as a country with the entire world community sanctioning us. And that's really what it needs. I have a feeling that this is a message to President Obama, as the United States Senate has already passed tougher sanctions on Iran. What we're looking at now is the bill going through the House and then going to President Obama for a signature. President Obama has stated his hesitancy to sanction the entire Iranian oil industry because that might shoot gas prices up across the board, across the world, further damaging the world's economy, and might be that tipping point that sends the world's economy into a place where it can't recover from. Therefore, Ehud Barak, the defense minister of Israel, has to come out with a strong statement that says only the toughest sanctions. This comes on the heels of a very disturbing incident where America's top-secret drone — a drone is an airplane that can spy or even bomb without a pilot in it. An American top-secret drone was, good question how it got there, but fell into Iranian hands. The Iranians claim they shot it down. The Americans claim it malfunctioned. John Bolton, former ambassador to the United Nations from the United States, is worried that the Russians might have given the Iranians jamming equipment, which means that as a plane flies over, its radars are jammed or its guidance system is jammed, and that brings these things down. If that's true, we're looking at a much tougher war with Iran if that has to happen. Okay, let's go on to the next subject, which is Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich, it was the former Speaker of the House, the third most powerful person in the United States government in the mid-90s, is now running for president as a Republican, and is leading in the polls. He came out with a very controversial statement. He's wont to do that, but he's also a very smart man and knows what he's doing, and came out and said that the Palestinians are an invented people. There's no real people as the Palestinians. This is a very rash comment, let's put it this way, for a number of reasons. Number one, it seems to be the position of the American government and the Israeli government that even though historically it might be true that the Palestinian people only came about once the State of Israel was created, all of a sudden you had these people that were no longer Arabs, now they're Palestinians. The American government and the Israeli government has accepted the idea of a Palestinian people and accepted the idea that these people should have a state, as long as the first condition is met, that there's peace with Israel. By saying that there's no such thing as a Palestinian state, it brings up the vision of a United States president that's supposed to be in the middle ground between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and trying to negotiate them while he doesn't feel that one side is even valid and shouldn't even have a position at the table. It's red meat for the pro-Israel activists, but at the same time brings into question whether it was really a presidential statement, meaning that he has to be a little more diplomatic. Those are the criticisms being weighed against him. We're not giving an opinion here. You can look at the cheat sheet, that's the attached document in this email, and see the different reactions, the Palestinians' reaction, this came up in one of the Republican debates, and see how Mitt Romney, another big presidential contender, and Ron Paul and Michelle Bachmann all handled Newt Gingrich, and seeing how Newt Gingrich defended himself. It's a fascinating area for the pro-Israel activists to look at, and I hope you'll take a couple of minutes to familiarize yourself with it even more past what we just talked about. Okay, next things is the Israelis there's what's called a quartet. The quartet are 4 different countries: England, America, Russia, and of course I have to forget one right now. But the quartet are 4 different countries who are encouraging the Palestinians and the Israelis to come and try to work out a peace deal between them. Tony Blair is the head of this quartet, does the head of the negotiations, and Bibi Netanyahu had hoped that as the quartet gets more engaged right about now, that they could encourage the Palestinians to actually negotiate. At this point, the Palestinians won't negotiate. They will not sit down at the table until Israel agrees to preconditions. Preconditions in a negotiation is absurd. The whole point of a negotiation is that you sit down and negotiate the points, not that one side says, I'll only sit down with you if you agree to our 2 positions over here. That's pre-negotiating or negotiating with preconditions, and that's just simply not a legitimate way of going about things. The Israelis obviously turned this down, but the Israelis want to sit down. Bibi Netanyahu is insistent on sitting down face-to-face with Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian people. Mahmoud Abbas, clearly showing that he's not that interested in peace, will not sit down. Okay, going on. Syria. Syria looks like it's had a chance at peace as the Arab League forced Hafez Assad, the president of Syria, to stop killing his own people, and it looked like it could work, but it didn't. And over the weekend, he rampaged his own people. His brother-in-law, general, was shot and killed by his own people over the weekend. And what we're looking at now is a city called Homs, which is a very important city in Syria, where President Assad has threatened his own people. These are his own citizens. That if they don't stop protesting, he's going to bomb them from the air. Gives you pause, and thank God we live in the United States or Israel, where we have the ability to have free speech and we have the ability to demonstrate against our government. And let's pray that this comes to an end very soon, and a new government, a new peaceful government emerges in Syria, one that's actually interested in peace with Israel. It could happen. Lastly, check out the cheat sheet. Unbelievable article on Israel. Israel had ordered F-35 airplanes, which are stealth fighter bombers, from America. The plane has some problems with it, in which case America has slowed down its production. There are cracks along the airplane that we're developing. It's obviously not something you want to happen as you're flying over another country and bombing it. So those have slowed down. But with that, Israel is stuck, as is America, with an older generation of airplanes, which have to be upgraded. The F-16s are going to be going through an upgrade because of the F-35's delay. And what you got to read is all the Israeli technology that they upgrade. It is pretty cool. How about a fighter helmet that instead of, how you take the stick and you try to aim towards your target and lock onto your target, as we all see in the movies, this is all you have to do is look at your target, and your helmet automatically lines up with the guidance system in the airplane and fires at what you're looking at. You got to see this article. Have a great day.